to happen when Manning asked where the 10 million gone. Remember, he was Minister of Housing. And when Manning started to ask where the 10 million, I still appreciate that. You know I appreciate that? I appreciate that because there is some of those who sit in within the cabinet and they have seen, they know, they experience the level of corruption, but yet they wouldn't do as the Prime Minister and speak out. That is the level of wicked evilness that they continue to harbor in our parliament. Our parliament is a disgrace. Our parliament is a disgrace from the speaker to every one of the MPs. This speaker of the parliament, and here what I'm telling earlier, Rowley is so clever. I am saying that in the next 1,000 years, Rowley will dead and go. And any government who comes in after may very well cannot prove any level of corruption in this government now. You know why? Because this Prime Minister have placed his people in every strategic position. Every position that you believe that something is going wrong. It is his personal friends in those positions. So you know what will happen? One of my friends tell me the other day, he said, boy, I was working for a contractor. He said, boy, when I see they started tread paper and they started destroy and pack up and help, I started to laugh. Let me tell you something in this government. If Olaine want to know, if Olaine want to stand up, I am telling you guys, you people, you citizens, if Olaine doesn't want to stand up against this government, then it makes no sense that Olaine even look for election. If Olaine don't want to stand up against this government, it will make no sense 2025. I know what I'm saying to y'all, you know. I know what I'm saying to y'all because let me tell you something. Don't feel me have friends in the PNM too, you know. Dinesh Sankar Singh know that. I have friends in the PNM, chairman. I have friends in the PNM. I just know things too. I just hear things too. But the difference, I just want to verify before I speak. And once I verify, I never afraid to talk. Never. Ladies and gentlemen, I am saying to you, I am saying to Trinidad and Tobago, I am saying to you, my listeners on douglAR Radio, I am saying to you that enough talk. We talk enough. Now it's time for action. Now it's time for us to stand behind Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Stand behind the leader of the opposition. A woman who withstood the test of time. A woman who stood up between 2010 and 2015, as I said, with a bunch of sharks and was able to swim through the rough waters and delivering to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is under Kamla Prasad Bisesa that this country have seen the better days. And I'm telling you, it is only under Kamla Prasad Bisesa that those days can come again, where you, the citizens of this country, will be proud to call yourself a Trinbagonian. Kamla have delivered in every aspect, in sport, in education, social development, every ministry, Kamla Prasad Bisesa deliver. And I am saying it is because of the lies of Keith Christopher Rowley. He stood up bold-faced within the parliament and lied and said to this country that there is information where Kamla, Gary Griffith and others wanted to murder a journalist. That is the type of person we have in the hem of leadership in this country. And I will say to you, show me a liar, as Patrick Manning said, and you will see a thief. Ladies and gentlemen, I am saying to you that when you come into government through lies, you will have to continue to lie to remain there. We have seen this Prime Minister stood up on every and many occasions from Delcy Rodriguez come right back and lie to the press, lie blatantly, and yet the people of this country accept that. You, the people, accept that. We have, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a position where we must demand good governance from anybody who sits in that chair. We must demand transparency and accountability in every level of governance. And when you cannot find transparency and accountability, we have a government who scrapped the procurement legislation and procuring without legislation. And yet to the end of the day, when you ask Keith Rowley, where is the grants that you collect? Where is the 200 billion that you say you spend? Where is the accountability? He said, I spent it on COVID. And that's the end of the story. That's the end of the story. And we as citizens, we accept that. We sit down and we take that. I am telling you, if it was Kamla Prasad Bisesa in government and conduct business as the way in which Keith Rowley conducted business, I am telling you, this country would have been in turmoil. They would have been in turmoil. And I want to talk to my people now. I want to talk to the people who believe that the PNM party belongs to you. I am saying tonight in Fyzabad that the PNM party, that party it belongs to you, my African brothers and sisters. That is not your party. Don't mind they resemble you. That party utilize your vote. And when they utilize your vote, they enrich another class of people. That is what they do with us. That is what they do with us. And we will jump and ball and campaign and tote and beg, wheelchair, stretcher, take everyone to the polls and tell them, vote PNM. You voted for your government. Don't fool yourself. That government is not yours. That is not your government. You examine the history of the PNM in this country. Examine the history. Examine from the Lenny State to the Sapgas, to the Youngs, to the Alwaris. It is not your government. Don't fool yourself. You know the other man asked me, he said, use the man with be talking and supporting the UNC. I said, all right. You see how you do that? I said, well, what do you mean? You see why he's a black man? You's a black man. Rowley's a black man. How you going to support the Indian? I said, all right, I say, I's a black man. You is a black man. What are we doing for the black man? You say, well, right now, we're not doing nothing. Talk done. And that is what I want my people to see. If you have a government that looks like you, that resemble you, and they are not providing for you, we are not asking for handouts. We are asking for opportunity. We want to be proud fathers. We want to be proud mothers. We want to be proud business people. We want to be proud entrepreneurs. That is what we want. We want a good education. We want education that we can move on, where we can qualify ourselves, where we can become lawyers, doctors, pharmacists, druggists. We want to be what we want to be through our own ambitions and through the sweat of our brow. That is what we want. We're not asking for hampers. We're not asking for handouts. But you, the PNM government, you have removed every opportunity that Kamla Prasad Bisesa had brought to the table, where the poor people, where the African people, where everybody was benefiting. You, Keith Rowley, you took it away and destroyed the middle class and make every other citizen poor in this country. That is what you do. And that is why we will demand, we will campaign, we will work, we will tread, we will hit the streets. You have to go, Keith Rowley. You is like a disease to this country. Everything that you put your hand on, you destroy. You have destroyed every sector of government. You have contaminated from the president straight back down the judiciary, the law association, everybody dumb, nothing to say. All because of one man. One man who feel he could talk to us as he feel. Who believe that we are his children. He could buff, he could shout. He could use insulting language. He could use all kind of language. My son tell me the other day. He said, Daddy, Rowley does cuss stink, you know. I said, you ever hear Rowley cuss? He said, yes. They forget what he tell me. I said, what he tell me? And he tell me. I said, all right, that is not really a curse. You understand? It is not really. But guess what? You know what I tell Omar? I say, Holmes, I don't want to be a prime minister like he, you know. Let me tell you something as we wrap up. Nobody in this country, from the small to the large, nobody have respect for Keith Rowley. You know why? When you does not have respect for yourself, you cannot demand respect from anybody else. I am telling you, Keith Rowley is the worst, disrespectful, disgraced prime minister to sit in that chair. To sit in that chair. This man have conducted himself as what we know in local terms as a hooligan. That is how he conduct himself. And therefore, I am calling on every citizen. Let us unify. Let us stand together. Let us ensure that before 2025, that Kamla Prasad Bisesa come back and sit in the chair of Prime Minister and lead this country out of the bondage that the PNM has bring us to. I am saying tonight that Kamla could do it. There is none other. A lady with compassion, a lady with fortitude, a lady who stood out against the rest. Thank you. God bless you. And we break for now.
PNM must go. Rowley have to go. Rowley have to go. I see young and old, we crying out for this. Rowley have to go. Yeah, one top. A government to the fight we down, a government to the school, a government with integrity. Now look how they understand. A government in city and tea, know without the ball head man everybody. Rowley have to go. Rowley have to go. PNM must go. Rowley have to go. Rowley have to go. Tell them go. Rowley have to go. Rowley have to go. PNM must go. Rowley have to go. Hey, now everybody let's vote. Vote them out. Vote. Vote them out. Vote. Vote them out. The Rowley time to resign. Vote. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote. Vote them out. Vote them out. When you see it waving bye bye, everything's selling out. It's not working out again. Rowley have to go. Rowley have to go. It's only drought. They won't wipe out.
Good night, everybody. We'll start in a few minutes, and we're asking the people who stand up out there. It have place on the pavilion. If you could come across on the pavilion, please. Right, Councillor Victor, you are needed on the podium. By the podium, run fast.
A very pleasant good afternoon to the people of Fyzabad here in Standard Ground. A pleasant good afternoon to all of Trinidad and Tobago as we welcome you here to TNT Speaks, Standard Recreation Ground in Fyzabad. We want to begin tonight's proceedings with the national anthem, and I'm going to invite my former teacher and good friend, former education specialist, Ms. Tara Lalji, to lead us in the national anthem. Can I ask you to stand as we sing the national anthem? Ms. Tara Lalji.
Forged from the love of liberty in the fires of hope and pride, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands on the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Hear every prayer is finding in one place, and may God bless our nation. Hear every prayer is finding in one place, and may God bless our nation.
Thank you so very much. Can I invite you to remain standing as I invite my brother, Mr. Alan Pirangi, to lead us in a word of prayer. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, MP, and everyone present, Trinidad and Tobago, good night. As in all things, we look to God before we do anything. So I just want you to join me in prayer as we agree. Let us pray. Most merciful Father, your mercy and grace have brought us safely here today. We recognize that we are entirely dependent on you for all that we are. We understand that if we put our trust in you, our path will be full of your light. So tonight, I invoke your divine spirit. We are here to discuss topics that will benefit the people of our community, and by extension, our beloved nation of Trinidad and Tobago. We want to consider how to improve the quality of life for everyone without bias. Come and give us the power to make the right decisions that would benefit the less fortunate and socially displaced. You have clearly chosen these speakers for such a time as this. Anoint them for the task at hand and give to them the fortitude to stand against adversities that may be in view and even unseen. Bless them with the support that would lighten their load as they discharge their duties to their bursaries. Bless our beloved Member of Parliament, Dr. Lakram Bodo, as he continues to guide our constituency towards a better tomorrow. Open his eyes to the Spirit as he advances the lives of others, making our community and country just that much better. Bless our listeners with discerning ears. Bless everyone who made this event possible. Too many to name, but you know them. You know them by name, by number, and by nature. Take control as I commit this meeting into your mighty hands, and we seal this prayer in your most holy name. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Alan Pirangi. Ladies and gentlemen, can I invite you to take your seats, to sit down, make yourselves comfortable. On behalf of our visionary, hardworking, dedicated, and committed political leader of the United National Congress and returning Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago after the next election, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, on behalf of our dedicated, committed, and hardworking Member of Parliament, the very dedicated Dr. Lakram Pibodo, on behalf of all the councillors, on behalf of all the people in Fyzabad, I want to issue a very warm and heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you. For those of us who are joining us on Facebook, I welcome you. For those of us who are joining us on YouTube, I welcome you. To everybody who is hearing this speech here tonight, I welcome you and I encourage you to listen from beginning to end to understand what is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago as we fight to return Trinidad and Tobago to a state of normalcy, to a state of prosperity under our new UNC-led government. Ladies and gentlemen, Fyzabad is of historical significance, not only because the labor movement was born here, and some of the greatest labor leaders came from Fyzabad. You will recall, before we formed the government the last time around, our meeting place was in Fyzabad, and that set the precedent. Fyzabad is the landmark constituency where we are bringing about change at Trinidad and Tobago, and this is where we begin to return to the government of Trinidad and Tobago under the United National Congress, under Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and with our Member of Parliament, Dr. Lakram Pibodo. We have a very interesting program here tonight. We have a very exciting program. We have a dynamic list of speakers. And I'm sure you don't want to hear me, but you know politicians, once we start talking, we like to talk. But I'm not going to hog the limelight. I welcome you here on behalf of our party, on behalf of our Member of Parliament. And I want to start this meeting on a very progressive note. Our first speaker tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a young lady, very beautiful, very dynamic, very hardworking, and committed. She is now representative of the people, a councillor at the Paria Regional Corporation. She's a hardworking and dedicated parent. She's a hardworking and dedicated worker. She's somebody who leads by example. I want to invite to the microphone now our councillor, Ms. Ramona Victor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. UNC people, good night. I assure you, the UNC people, good night. Political leader of the UNC, MP Dr. Lakram Bodo, councillors, supporters, and all who play an active role in developing and growing our country, a special good night. I want to extend a special greetings to the Baptist community. You know, yesterday they would have celebrated Shouta Baptist Day. And you know, the struggle has been so long, but to those who keep up with the struggle and who continue to celebrate the event, special greetings to you. Today I want to tell you a little about myself. I grew up in a small village called Victor Street. My mom, a housewife. My dad, he was the one working to bring the finance in order for our family to move forward. But today, we live in a world where women are now empowered to assist in the financial needs of our families. Wherever we go, we see females working on the streets, cleaning the roads, even in the closed stores, standing on their feet from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. We even have had the best prime minister to be a female. Yes, she's coming again. So I'll be able to say the best prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago. We also have a female president in Trinidad and Tobago. All these women who go out on the battlefield to assist in taking care of the families and contributing to a better Trinidad and Tobago, I salute you. I could tell you approximately 70% of my burgesses who come and ask for employment are usually females. Imagine being a single mother working for a minimum wage of $986 a fortnight. You have to pay a tea and tech bill. You have to pay a WASA bill. You have to pay the internet bill. Yet still, you still have to purchase food and you still need to provide security for your family, even a shelter. Our journey has many challenges. Sometimes we often carry that burden of high food prices. Imagine having a fixed salary, but every day when you go to the supermarket, prices just keep raising. One of my burgess told me, she went to the grocery. Usually she would purchase groceries for $400 a week. And last month she went to the grocery and her grocery came up to just close to $600. I mean, she was embarrassed by the cashier. She repeated, "Ramona, I pick up the exact same items like last week. The exact same items. And the bill just raised from $400 to close to $600. My brothers and sisters, young ladies, we have to get this country working again. Today, many needy families are being denied food cards. What kind of government does this to its citizens? Families are being evicted because they can't pay rent. Everything in the supermarket, even in the hardware. Just imagine the cost of public transport also going up as well. And if you think that that is all the hardship that women have to go through, that's not all. It's not all at all. There are women who also have to endure abusive relationships. For many women in Trinidad, no place is more unsafe than the own home that they live in. As the world recognized International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, it has become clear that the pandemic called the PNM has made the violence worse. Our women are afraid to speak out because of fear for their life. They often wonder how they could provide and nurture their children. And this forced them sometimes to stay in abusive relationships. We have already lost Rachel Lochan, Pixie Lacan, Gabriela Dubre, just to name a few. Men, please respect our women. Remember, these are the women who cook, wash, and clean for us. The same women who have you looking and smelling nice. You agree with me, men? Yes. So don't abuse the ladies. They play an important role in life. I see Victor Roberts laughing, man. His wife just have him looking and smelling nice. We must assist and encourage our families to grow our own household food. Government must do more. Simply employing the current environmental workers to grow food in public space can assist in the provision of food. I call on the government of Trinidad and Tobago to reach out to mothers before it is too late. The political leader of the UNC, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, she continues to call on this government to bring back the food hampers, roll out a one-time uniform grant for students to return to school, provide an enhanced subvention for the school feeding program so children can be fed and healthy. Our girls and women must be protected. As a country, the government must take steps to provide educational opportunities for our girls and our women. Reducing the gender education gap gives women more economic freedom and less ability to influence and control by men. In closing, I want to say thanks to all the men of Trinidad and Tobago who continue to create a safe environment for our women to succeed. Thank you.
Oh, when she go away, Rowdy had to go, Rowdy had to go, BNM must go, Rowdy had to go, Rowdy had to go.
Thank you so much, Councillor Ramona Victor. Dedicated, dynamic, and hardworking. And she looks so lovely tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I must invite her to join me to co-chair this program tonight. And Ramona, I hope you'd allow us to invite you, and you'll join me to co-chair this meeting tonight. Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a child of the present-day environment, but I like to reflect on the past. You know what stays in our memories are those the happiest memories we had. And we reflect on those past moments that we were most enjoyable. And my friend Judy will tell you, and she will agree with me. And I want to throw back your minds to a time in Trinidad and Tobago when we were exceedingly happy. So much was being delivered to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Our children, our mothers, our grandmothers, our fathers, our brothers and sisters all benefited. I want you to remember that golden era from 2010 to 2015. Not too far. We don't have to go back too far, you know. 2010 to 2015. Who was the Prime Minister? Kamla Persad-Bissessar. She led this country with dignity, with hard work, with thrift, sacrifice, and made everybody happy. Ladies and gentlemen, I dare say, never before in the history of our country had so much been done for so many people in such a short space of time. And it was all done under Kamla Persad-Bissessar, a UNC government with dedicated and hard-working people like myself, you, our members of parliament, and all of Trinidad and Tobago, only under the UNC and Kamla Persad-Bissessar. I want you to remember that period of time as we reflect. As we go forward tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite our very first speaker here. Our very first speaker, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Russell Ramnarine. Russell lives in South Oropouche. He is a small business owner. That is critical, a small business owner and an active member of the community. He's going to share with us his thoughts and his experience. Let us put our hands together and welcome Mr. Russell Ramnarine to the microphone.
Pleasant good night to the people of Fyzabad constituency and to all those who are viewing on all social media platforms. Member for Parliament, Dr. Lakram Boro, and Member for Parliament, David Lee, and councillors. Firstly, let me introduce to you myself. I am Russell Ramnarine from the South Oropouche area, a small interpreter owner. I am here tonight to speak about some of the challenges faced as a small business operator. We are facing quite some hardships with our sales due to people being laid off from their jobs. COVID-19 pandemic impacted on our economy big time, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but worldwide. Part of my business was essential for COVID-19, but many people was out of a job, so they did not purchase items how they will normally do, which caused a serious impact on our sales. Couple months ago, chicken went on a shortage from our local farmers, which made a high increase in prices. So right now, the price remains at a high cost for chicken, making it difficult for some people to purchase. In my view, I think the current government needs to put things in place for our agricultural sector. When COVID-19 pandemic started, there was a national shutdown to all business operators, which was impacted on us very hard because there was nothing in place for government taxes to be withdrawn from the pandemic period, neither any incentives at all. Now it's a struggle for us because our capital was used up during the pandemic. Now we have to start all over again during the pandemic. During the pandemic, AC units were sold at high prices due to no shipment were coming into the country. Prices from our local dealers are selling so high that we have barely purchased any units. I think the government should put things in place so we can purchase at a cheaper price from our local dealers. So in that way, we can sell AC units at a more reasonable price. Many people are home right now due to government layoffs. So we as small business operators will feel the hurt until we can catch up. MP for Fyzabad, this is some of my challenges we are facing right now. Thanking you for giving me this voice here tonight, and do hope and know you will draw some of these hardships in Parliament to the current government. Thank you. Back to the chairman.
UNC for Raleigh. Brody have to go. Brody have to go. BNM must go. Brody have to go. Brody have to go. Tell them go. Brody have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell Rabnarine. I mean, all you know, we have a clueless government. And now that this country is finally going to open up, I really hope that the government find ways and measures to give the small, medium, and large businessmen and women some form of assistance. I now bring to the podium a young woman brought up within the constituency of Fyzabad in the district of Mondesi, and still an active member within the community. I bring to the podium Ms. Sarah Kalipasad.
UNC for Raleigh. Brody have to go. Brody have to go. BNM must go. Brody have to go. Brody have to go. Tell them go. Brody have to go. Brody have to go. BNM must go. Brody have to go. Brody have to go. Everyone's coming up.
Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, chairpersons, MPs, councillors, and all relevant stakeholders, including the live audience. Tonight, I would like to use this platform to speak about issues plaguing us youths. These concern namely the economy and crime, and many economic factors that surround us affect our opportunities, ambitions, sense of purpose, recreation, family life, and safety. So the points raised tonight will impact mental health as well. In recent years, the government has taken the decision to use household income to assess a person, an individual's eligibility to the GATE program. It has since become necessary for young persons to earn an income immediately after secondary school, to save towards any skills or academic pursuits, and to assist their families with expenses given the increased cost of living. And this will only worsen with the impending increases in utilities, fuel prices, and taxes. However, there's a greater competition in the job market, even for entry-level positions, as there are many older, overqualified persons now unemployed. These are persons who would have been breadwinners with financial obligations, their own families, and dependents. These are persons who would be in their 40s, 50s, and perhaps 60s, because we know it's not a smooth transition when you retire. There are many persons who still have pensions, benefits outstanding, and whatnot. They as well would be competing with persons 19 to 25 for entry-level position jobs. Unemployment is high due to our stagnated economy. And although there are those who think that it is okay to say that if we are unhappy that we are free to go, our leaders need to reconsider their approach and how they addressed our calls for improvement in the various sectors through the length and breadth of our country. We need all of our leaders to inspire investment and public confidence. This takes more than words, suits, and manifestos, but actions and policies that align with our goals of fixing our country and growing business. We cannot afford to stoop at calls for measurability, data, and progress, especially as there are many attractive markets in our neighboring countries. Beyond investors, we are experiencing a brain drain, and our leaders seem to lack the foresight about the long-term impact of this. We need businesses to expand, compete, and contribute to the domestic and international technological landscape. Not reduce operational hours because of crime, not downsize because of overheads, and not to close up shop entirely. Because this would just leave the businesses and organizations along the supply chain reeling, together with workers and their families, who will be left to suffer. Because this cycle will not continue if there is no intervention to change our course. There are many factors influencing the lack of employment opportunities for us, the youth. With increases expected in fuel prices at the pump, many more persons from Fyzabad and South Trinidad will look to the public transportation system for our daily commute. However, public transportation can be very unsafe given our current crime situation, as well as it can be very inefficient, which impacts productivity and punctuality, which in turn affects our career choices in South. Our leaders can speak about an ideal society and have ambitious goals of reducing carbon emissions, which is all fine and good. But once the demand and concerns remain, talking about electric vehicles and reducing subsidies are not enough to help our population transition. Traffic congestion takes away time from productivity, family life, and quite frankly adds to stress. And given our health situation in our country, we cannot afford to be a stressed population. So even if everyone could magically afford electric or hybrid vehicles, there is still a problem of traffic, deplorable roads, and an inefficient public transportation system. This could be alleviated by fixing roads, because they know where the potholes are. They can fix the landslides, because UNC fed up protests about it. And when they are looking at our road networks, they can build the necessary drainage infrastructure, which would facilitate the widening of roads, because connectivity drives commerce. Government can do more to decentralize workspaces and improve the accessibility of government services across the country, because they like to speak about digital transformation. However, recently, many e-services were decommissioned on the TT-Biz link. This directly contradicts the promises of digital transformation and does nothing to improve the ease of doing business in our country. Also, the lack of data impacts us. And by us, I mean everyone, including us, the youths. What data is being used to guide policy? What data can be used by entrepreneurs to solve inefficiencies and develop technologies and business solutions? Published data is outdated and almost irrelevant. And what exists is used to gatekeep entrepreneurs, gatekeep success, and control narratives. Because if you do not know what data exists, how can you dispute it? How can you scrutinize it? You just have to take their word for it. Government needs to prioritize data collection and policy making that addresses the needs of the general population across the age spectrum. This would have been something similar to what had existed under Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development. But it is clear the government does not know what to do about us, the youth. What are our needs and how to address them? All they need to do is listen, invest in data collection, and we can help you, the government, help us. Simply put, what affects us affects the country. We, youths, we have families. We have ambitions. We need systems to work. We need safety, and we are eager to contribute to our country. Everyone likes to preach about diversifying the economy and the service industry, but this is threatened by high crime. How can you go and do hiking and, all of that when you're going to get robbed? You're unemployed, okay, you go and register a taxi business. You have a legit taxi service, but you are left defenseless while someone can pull a gun on you and just kill you. We don't like having torn families when people feel forced to leave our country for safety and employment. We understand that many victims of crime and their families live each day with unaddressed trauma and feelings of injustice. The voices of us youths matter in the long-term development of our country. So in conclusion, I would like to appeal to our leaders to see us as producers and contributors, requiring an important investment of care and resources. We don't want just handouts. We want policies to take us from A to Z. Thank you. Good night.
Come put your hands together and give a better round of applause to Miss Sarah Kali Prasad. Young, dynamic, brilliant young lady, well qualified. What does the country have for her? How are they going to make her dreams, hope, and ambition come true? Can this government deliver for her? No, they have failed her, and they will continue to fail her. Ladies and gentlemen, before I bring on the next speaker, I want to extend a very heartfelt welcome to MP David Lee. No stranger to Fyzabad, but when I tell you he could instill fear in the hearts of the PNM, he could instill fear. When they think they could tackle him in Parliament and throw talk at him and instead of jam them with facts and not fiction, they are now afraid of him. So welcome here, MP Lee. Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce the next speaker, I have to make this comment. You will recall me saying earlier on that golden period from 2020 to 2015, when we had our visionary political leader as Prime Minister, Kamala Persad-Bissessar. She looked and saw into the future how to prepare our children, how to prepare our population, how to ensure Trinidad and Tobago can withstand any negativity that came along. One of the greatest things she did for this country was to give every child a laptop, to equip them for the future, to prepare them. If that program had continued when we had COVID-19 in the last 2 years, so many of our children would not have been lost, would not have been cast aside, would not have been left derelict, because they would have been able to be communicated with and acquire the education. But no, the PNM stopped it. They vilified it. They said, no, the children don't deserve it. What happened? We have learned a cruel lesson. And the reason I'm harping on this, the laptops that were given to our children that prepare them for the future. Because our next speaker is a gentleman who has spent his entire life not only as a religious leader, but he is a retired teacher. Not too long, a retired teacher, spent many, many years in the teaching service. He's a pundit as well, a man who delivers his religious services, dedicated and committed. He has been actively involved in the politics since I have known him for more than 16 years now. I've known him more longer than that, and he has been actively involved. He has also been extensively involved in social and religious work for many years. Ladies and gentlemen, a gentleman who has touched the lives of everyone in Fyzabad and by extension all of Trinidad and Tobago, I want to welcome now Mr. Dave Ravindranath Bim.
Everyone's coming out to bring about
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honorable MPs who sit behind me, Mr. Lee and Dr. Bodo, our own MP, Mr. Chairman, not only chairman of tonight's meeting, but chairman of the council, the councillors, my fellow speakers, of course, those who are in the audience, and those who are in the media audience to whom I'm sure are listening attentively and maybe just can't see me. But I'm assured that I will try to wake you up. I only hope to tickle your intelligence, nothing more. So I just want to start off. I am going to do my little session, though given 7 minutes, but to talk a little bit about education and more so about during the time of the pandemic and maybe education in general. So our chairman started by talking about the laptops. It took a visionary government and more so a visionary leader to say that the whole world was going into a path of getting into IT and all these type of things so that our children needed laptops and so forth, because many of us do online learning from other countries, we said. But the present government did not see that. As he said, why give the children that? They will only break it up. Because they are accustomed not with that, they will use it as toys. But even the toys have a purpose. Now when the pandemic came, they are struggling and begging because they cut it off. They shut down everything, from the train line to Petrotrain. PNM government shut down everything. So I will refer to them as a shutdown government. The only thing they have to do now is shut down themselves. But we're moving on. So now that they had to use it, they were now going and beg our corporate citizens to provide laptops for them when you had the opportunity to do it. Because if the UNC government could have done it, what prevents you from doing it? Now that they did that, they now expect teachers to automatically know how to use it. So if you were a teacher in my age, in that kind of group, you might have to go and ask a student how to use it. Because they clearly know more than you in using that tool for education. When they are pressed against the wall and had to use it now, then they said, and this is what I get into the pandemic, if the child doesn't have a device, we will prepare these handouts for them, a package that they will collect, the parents will collect at the school, and they will go. The package never come. If there are teachers among me in the audience, I know Mr. Paranji who said the prayer is a teacher, tell me, how many packages did you all get? Teachers had to endanger themselves and go to deliver these packages to parents, because we have some nice parents who don't come. And that is a child who is in danger, but they don't care. Parents were put at a bigger risk now, or bigger danger, or bigger trust upon them, because they had to see about their own children who were home and also teach. And I've had an incident where a supervisor saw a parent on the street and go and complain to the principal that he saw her on the street. I want to know if he went in the toilet to see when she go too. That is the stupidness that we saw outside there. That's the pandemic for you. And after all that, I walked with this evening. I got it from a teacher. It's the guideline for reopening schools stage 4. A beautiful document. Like everything else. Well written, They just pay people good to write this, but they don't use one. I can't use the word on the mic. They don't use it at all. Nice thing, So one of the things that you would have been faced, we have some children whose parents helped them, who could help, and they were doing well during the pandemic and through whatever we have been teaching them through. But what about those who are not doing well? What will happen to them? So they come to school now, bright and early, chirpy, when school reopens in April, and they like the doorknob. It's my children, so I can't say that they are dull. They have not been prepared. So now this nice document says that there is an assessment for them, and there is a process of how we are going to accommodate learning or lost learning. That is all they say. Some other committee is going to tell you now how to do it. Teachers, it does work. They just come and tell you how to do it. I've been a teacher for over 30 years, so that's why I could talk like that. It doesn't happen. In this document, they say that there will be a doctor associated with every district together with 3 nurses. How big is the St. Patrick region, Chairman? Starting from Pinal to Icacos. 1 doctor, 3 nurses. What do you think? Take a walk in? So this is what we are supporting a government for. And when I say we, I don't refer only to you, I refer to all those people who vote a government in purse. Because not only you are suffering and your children, all of us. And let me come to the point that I want to make here. These children who have been deprived of an education, even those who are going to school, how many contact hours they had? Maybe the maximum might be about 4 to 5 hours a week. Because they go to school for sometimes 2 days, and then they are the devices home. Some of them will listen, some don't listen, some pay attention. There is no way to count on that. They send out home assignments. When the assignments come, as one teacher was pointing out to me, the child made 100. When the child come face to face, he makes 0. Who was doing the work? Parents? Were you part of that? Yes, you attempted to do it. Because everybody wants their child to get ahead. So these children come to school. You do your assessment. Teachers in the crowd, especially in primary school, the child could only stay in primary school until 14 years. So he comes and he was in standard 3 and did not do the work. So you can't keep him back because you want to send him up because it's standard 3, standard 4, we start preparing for C exam. And he goes through there and he passed through the whole school system like salts. What are we creating? Because we have stopped him there. When he goes to secondary school, unless you have a very dedicated secondary school teacher who is going to take this child back and then bring him forward, that child is lost. Unfortunately, we have prepared ourselves for that. We are preparing our students not to be productive individuals in this country, but to be dependent. Dependent on some short-term job. Now, I have nothing against URP or any such system that says we are looking for the safety net for those who are less fortunate. But if we are not preparing our young people so as to take up responsible position to be productive to the country, then it will be happening like the young lady said, brain drain. They're going away. And where were they educated? And who paid for it? We did. But they go to other places. I can't blame them. That's what they get. But much more important than that, we are creating criminals. Because if they can't get money a legal way, and they don't have the education so as to get it, what are they going to do? So what is our education system doing then? Is this the visionary approach of someone who is in government and can do it now? So let me just go back. What did the UNC do? The UNC said, here what? We are going to give you all laptops because that is the age that is coming. The genie cannot go back in the bottle. That's where you're going. You have to get learning. You can sit down here. I did my degree in law sitting down home and go to a school in Shogunas now and then. Only my final year I had to go to England. So why can't other people be able to do that? So that is what you are being prepared for. Then the UNC government, I'm just making a comparison so that you will understand, said here what? We had, and some of you will remember, especially parents, somebody had a little nursery school down so, a little kindergarten thing down so, with our 5 children and teaching them anyhow they want. And that's how we learned. Said, no, let me make this thing a little structured now. We're going to have some ECC centers, early childhood education centers. Where it will be structured, we train people and we'll do it, and we'll get it going. Guess what happened when the UNC government and the PNM government come in? It still have one trying to get open in Advocacy. It didn't finish yet. Nice building, but if you see grass and thing growing over it, that is what we think of our children. And that is only one episode in the whole thing about schools. UNC government said we want a seamless transition from primary school to secondary school. We will build enough secondary school so we don't have this dangerous exam we call the C exam. Call it common entrance, call it what you want. 11-year-old children are put through the pressures of all kind of things. Lessons, stay home, stay inside, do your work. When the exam finished, then all kind of pressures. And today you could have go and see how the parents was behaving, because they just behave like if they're writing the exam. We put our children through that. The UNC government with their vision said, no, we will have a seamless transition. From primary school, they will go on to secondary school. We have enough spaces. What did they do? We closed the Dinkin school. They said that school built for Dwayne and who? We have met, only when the UNC came back in power, they could have opened it. So that was ECC. Primary school education now. Some of your parents who have children will remember there was something that was called continuous assessment component. So instead of having one day in which your child will go to face an exam that will determine his whole life and what school he goes to, and because we have the concept of prestige school and all kind of school, I don't know why we have that, because in seamless education we would have zoned the children and they would go on, but we are complaining. We the parents are complaining because we think prestige school is there for us. You take all the children who are the cream of the crop and you put them in a school and you call them prestige school. And then you take all the rest and you put them in another school, underachievers, and you complain that the underachiever school are violent and not that. What you doing? You take 80 children, 2 classes and put them in NAPS. And take 360 children and put them in a senior secondary school. And then you complain what is happening. Is that vision? That is what we are doing with people. That is our education system. So in our primary school, we have graduated them to a state of mischievousness in our secondary school. And then we complain. So the continuous assessment that I was talking about, we said, not one day are you going to talk about common entrance or C exam, but you are going to be continuously assessed so that you can get there by the time you're ready. They do away with that too. That is stupidness. So in a few minutes, because I get the paper already, so in a few minutes, I didn't even have to look at it there, I know. So in a few minutes, let me tell you a little bit about what happens at tertiary education. Do you all remember something we called GATE? And let me throw you a little further back to Panday days, when you had dollar for dollar. And it was improved upon and we get GATE. In recent statistics shows that when the UNC was in government, 51,000 plus people were in GATE. You know how much is there now? 21,000. The young lady had hinted to it because you have a means test now. And if your parents have money, you are going. That is what we are doing in that type of education too. So all through, and if you give me a chance, you know I could talk the whole night, right? Those who know me. But as I started by saying, I only want to tickle your intelligence so that you could see for yourself, those who have children, grandchildren, whatever, that have to make a place in this country. What sort of country are we preparing for them? And more importantly, what role we want them to play. When we think about that, then we don't have to think about what government we want. We will get the government we deserve because we will go and put them there. I leave you with that and I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Sir Bim. Just imagine Mr. Bim as your teacher in school. Brothers and sisters, the UNC has a record for building schools. The UNC have a record for preparing our children for the future. Tell me something. What did PNM give us today? That is a slap in the face. Without further ado, I bring to you, this young lady has a bachelor degree in petroleum engineering, and she is currently pursuing a master's in energy studies. Suzette Mohammed is dedicated in pursuing a career in oil and gas sector. Her hope is to bring significant improvement to Trinidad and Tobago. I feel proud to introduce to you, from the electoral district of Paria East San Francisco South, Suzette Mohammed.
Good night, everyone.
My name is Suzette Mohammed, and I appreciate everyone who is here and listening today. I am thankful for the opportunity to discuss the employment woes facing graduates. Unemployment has become an increasing problem and cause for concern among graduates, with the job sector failing to provide entry-level jobs to graduates of this country. I am currently 23 years old, and I started university right after CAPE in the year of 2017. At the University of Trinidad and Tobago, I pursued a bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering. My decision to choose this degree was mainly due to 3 reasons. Firstly, it was the field I was most interested in, due to my father inspiring me with his job as a maintenance superintendent in Petrotrin. Secondly, Petrotrin was a highly successful and well-reputed oil and gas company here in Trinidad and Tobago at that time. And lastly, Trinidad and Tobago, our economy is still heavily dependent on the oil and gas sector. So with this degree was something I chose to do with a high degree of confidence and possibility of employment opportunities after I graduated. However, when I graduated in 2020, as everyone knows, Petrotrin no longer existed, now replaced with Heritage Petroleum and Paria. I graduated with second-class honors and held so much hope while applying to Heritage for graduate internships. However, it has been 2 years now, with countless applications sent to oil and gas companies, both big, both small, government and private owned, with all no success. With student loans to pay, a bachelor's in petroleum engineering, and I'm currently pursuing my master's, I can only hope this situation improves for all graduates, because we are trying, we really are trying. As the years pass, it is hard not to become increasingly disappointed with the lack of opportunities for graduates in my field. The fear of unemployment has caused growing levels of mental stress in both youths and adults, because in spite of getting a degree and in spite of having high qualifications, the possibility of getting a job in your respective field is so low. Many graduates, including I, have student loans to pay. We need money to support our families, but every day now becomes a struggle with being jobless, and not due to the lack of trying. Many graduates now end up working jobs that are not in their field, underpaid for their qualifications, in which it took time, effort, and money to achieve. We are left unsatisfied, but we stick to it due to the lack of prospects. I am, however, grateful to our counselor, Ms. Ramona Victor, as through her, I was able to get 10 days in the Paria Regional Corporation, and while it may not be in my field, it helps a lot. The government offers OJT to graduates and students as a means to experience and money. However, I can talk from my experience. I have applied to OJT in August 2020. It is 2 years now, and I still haven't got called. I sincerely hope that through this forum, everyone becomes aware of the problems that us graduates face after leaving school, and hopefully solutions can be implemented to help all our graduates. Lastly, I would like to thank all of you for your time and patience. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so very much, Miss Suzette Mohammed. And friends, a beautiful, academically inclined, hard-working young lady like that, totally disenfranchised, cannot get a job to suit her qualification, is willing to accept a 10 days at the corporation. It shows her dedication and commitment, but it also highlights the abuse that she must face in this country where you cannot get a job when you are qualified. This government has failed these people, has failed our young people, has failed our old people, has failed the country totally. It is time for them to? Let me hear it is time for them to? Correct. It is time for the government to go and let good governance return to Trinidad and Tobago. Remember, as I said, under that visionary leadership, do you remember when we had the reduced food prices? When it was Christmas time, what happened? You was to get lower food prices for basic supplies. Remember when it was time to focus on our children, they were given all the equipment they needed. Remember, our not-so-young people were empowered with skills and talents because of visionary leadership under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. I can tell you it is under our MP now, transform the medical system, the hospital system, to better equip, expanded hours to make our citizens healthcare available. What happened when the PNM came back? They shut it down and they cut it out. And we must go back to the old-time days of suffering. But friends, hope is in the air. Our leader, our present member of parliament, our people has realized that change must come, and we are going to bring about that change, and we are starting now. Friends, I want to introduce to you our next speaker. Our next speaker is a young man who I have known for quite a while, even before he entered the official political scenario. He was always dedicated, hardworking, committed, a community-oriented person who was always willing to go over and above the requirements. He was also excellent at cooking. And if you hear he make a boiled dog, he make a curry aloo for you, you're looking your fingers. So friends, he is now the electoral representative for Otahiti Rosilak. I want you to put your hands together and welcome Councillor Javed Mohammed. Yay,
Everyone's coming out to bring about.
Members of the community, my colleagues from the Paria Regional Corporation, members of Parliament, the listening and viewing audience, good evening to all. There is so much to be said and so little time, so let me dive in. Whenever we bring up the closure of Petrotrin, we are sure to hear that was 2 years ago. Get over it, move on. But the repercussions are still felt in communities where small and medium businesses downsized or closed their doors forever, where persons depend on the downstream industries are still unemployed. In my district of Otahiti Rosilak and Fyzabad at large, entrepreneurs had to turn to farming and fishing to survive. Giving the government an ideal opportunity to diversify the economy with greater emphasis on agriculture, especially in light of the exorbitant food import bill our country faces. But my brothers and sisters, constituents who choose to make an honest dollar in the fields or at the sea are met with incompetence, indifference, and a we do business kind of attitude from this government. However, with food prices at all-time high, it is this government's business to develop agriculture and fishing. The pandemic has taught us the importance of food security, my brothers and sisters. Now that we are hopefully emerging out of the restrictions, we face a new threat to our food supply and with the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. What is this Minister of Agriculture doing to make Trinidad and Tobago self-sufficient? Here in Fyzabad, we have farmers and fishermen who are ready and more than able, if only they had the proper support. Ladies and gentlemen, just imagine our fishermen go out there every morning from 4, faced with obstacles which start even before they reach the water. In Otahiti Bay and Labre, there is no safe place for them to launch, dock their vessel, and secure their engines and other equipment. They are forced to take all their equipment, including their engines, home every single day. Mind you, there's a fishing market refurbished and officially opened by a UNC-led government, but as soon as this administration took office, it was closed due to a lack of funds for maintenance. Can you believe our fishermen fishing in our waters are threatened to pay protection money to pirates in order to save their catch, their vessels, and even their lives. We demand more. We demand protection from our Coast Guards who are sworn to protect the Gulf of Paria and not only Paria fuel. Speaking of fuel, higher prices at the pump affect everyone. Did the government even consider the impact of higher operational costs for our fishermen and farmers? Are the government officials even aware that some boat engines use kerosene? Maybe not those docked at the various yacht clubs and marinas, but certainly those which bring in the catch at OTT Bay and Pier Road by the Old Jetty. This PNM government pays lip service to supporting fishermen and farmers. To access any sort of assistance, farmers, likewise fishermen, must be registered with the appropriate agencies. Mind you, the process is a tedious task designed to frustrate the applicants. Many individuals who find themselves in these essential industries do not have the necessary criteria to qualify, leaving them at a disadvantage when accessing subsidies, ADB loans, and relief grants. Those who qualify have an extensively long wait before they receive what is due to them, if they receive it at all. The government has an obligation to provide relief grants in case of flooding. The Ministry of Works, the Ministry of Agriculture, along with the Paria Regional Corporation, are responsible for clearing waterways. Our corporation is too severely underfunded to be able to provide this service under this administration. Our machinery is always down. No funds to maintain the necessary equipment. It makes one wonder if this is geographical discrimination. On that note, what is the Minister of Agriculture doing about the deplorable condition of roads, bridges, and waterways that fall directly on his lap? These negatively affect our farmers on a daily basis. Talk is cheap, but not under this regime, my brothers and sisters. Let's talk about the $500 million stimulus injected into this sector. How many farmers in Fyzabad benefited from this? Can anyone identify where the stimulus went? A further $300 million was injected to boost agriculture. Was this booster shot felt by any constituents of Fyzabad? A booster is supposed to increase the benefits of your first shot, but unfortunately, farmers this end did not receive that shot. Budget after budget have millions being allocated to agriculture. The present budget has over $1 billion allocated for agriculture. Is this reaching the men and women toiling the fields or at sea? What about the suppliers of pesticides and fertilizers, which farmers use to produce their crop? Suppliers cannot access Forex to pay the cost of importing these into the country, which leads to a steep price increase since this band of misfits took office, with some of these products doubling in price. And yet still, the wholesale prices for produce remain the same, while retailers and the middleman benefit from fluctuations in the market. That is if the farmer even gets to reap their own sow. The predial larceny unit is undermanned. The demand for this service has grown as the declining economic situation in the country leaves many desperate enough to turn to crime. The solution to this desperation lies in diversifying the economy through agriculture and agro-processing. This would create sustainable jobs, provide food security, and restore optimism in the people. It's sad to think that the country that gave the world the best cocoa tree, the Trinitario, cannot even keep its cocoa development company in operation. According to Jacqueline Rollins, chairman of the Cocoa Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited, and I quote, The CDC is facing severe financial difficulties and cannot survive past this fiscal year. End of quote. In 2019, Trinidad and Tobago won international awards in France for the best cocoa beans in the world. We are already recognized worldwide, but it seems as though everybody recognizes this except our government. If this government is serious about food security, providing employment, and earning foreign exchange, it would revive the once thriving cocoa industry and not let it suffer the same fate as our sugar industry. The history of Fyzabad, brothers and sisters, describes lush cocoa and coffee estates from Advocacy to Moray Trace. With this in mind, let me take this opportunity to invite my line minister to visit Fyzabad. Come see the history of cocoa at the Mudhouse Museum. Come taste our world-class chocolate grown right here in Fyzabad fertile soil. There is so much more to be said, but unfortunately I'm out of time. Rest assured, as we will continue at a later date. I thank you, God bless, and good night.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mohammed. And you know, Councillor Mohammed had shared the issues that the farmers of Fyzabad face. And just imagine, now we have the farmers of Barapur who are going through the rabies infestation, the farmers of Moruga who have to deal with the giant African snail. What the government doing? Slapping us in our face. Citizens, we, your representatives of Paria Regional Corporation, depend on finance from central government to patch or pave roads and construct drains to give quality service to your doorstep. Our next speaker will give us the facts about how this present administration slap us in our face. Councillor Derek Bowen.
Everyone's coming out to bring up.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, our political leader, Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, my colleagues at the Paria Regional Corporation, MP Lee, welcome to Fyzabad, our Member of Parliament, Dr. Bodo, members of the public, online or on the radio, good night to you all. First of all, I'd like to extend condolences to the Ramisa family for that tragic accident on the highway yesterday. Why I chose to do that, I mean, my pause always. I passed that truck somewhere between Chagonas or somewhere there yesterday. And, you know, it could have been me. So please, the family, I want to extend my deepest condolences to you all. So as the chairperson said, you know, I'm supposed to give you a bit of an idea of what our financial status has been over the last couple of years at the Regional Corporation, as I've been the chairman of finance for the last 2 years. To do that, I want to kind of clarify what I'm talking about. When we talk about materials and supplies, vote. That is the thing we use to get a $1 to fix them pothole in your road. That's what that is for. So don't feel like when the council, you see the budget and say council gets 70 million, let it fix all your road. So the material supply vote, over the last 2 years, maybe going on 3, we have got absolutely zero funding in that vote. So this affects all of you, because them little road, we can't put a oil sand for you, we can't patch the little thing on the main road, nothing like that. That is important. And they have chosen to neglect that. Minor equipment repairs, absolutely zero for almost 3 years. Now let me tell you what that is. That's to fix the backhoe that we're using to clear your drain when your place, before your place gets flooded. That's to fix the cutter, to cut, look at this gong, to fix the gongs. That's used to fix the trucks, the water truck to bring water for you when you don't have water in the line, which is a regular thing. Zero. PPE for our workers.
I saw some of my pass and see them workers out there with slipper on their foot. Zero. We had the COVID shutdown. We were told, we were instructed that we had to do a lot of different things. Zero funding to do that. So we had to beg and borrow and find a way to get it done to keep our workers safe and you. I want to explain to you something. You know, we said the budget, and when the budget done with, we have the costing because gas going up, or flour going up, but we're still saying there's so much of billions of dollars. So what the government said about that and says, Paria Regional Corporation, $79 million. Everybody started to call my phone, you know. Hey, what about we road boy? What about my drain boy? What about? But that is a number on a piece of paper, you know. It's like this. Just write on a piece of paper and say, that is what the list supposed to get this year. But when you apply for it, it's a whole different kettle of fish. Because when we apply on a monthly basis for the needs to run the business, you go say, wait now, how much I want? $20? Nah, boy, hold $5. See what I can do with that. And on top of that, tell you what to do with that $5, eh? So when you feel you're going to do a piece of development work here, no better try to pay the garbage truck. So that all of you here are suffering because of that. All of us suffering here because of that. A simple thing like our Paria Kemai, which has been a festival 1,000 years old. We have got no money for that. But they get money for Borough. Point 14 Borough get money, yeah? And I'm sure Arima got. All the other cities and boroughs got. Except Paria. But we're going to be a borough soon, you know. You know? Wait for that, we're going to be a borough soon. As Meru said here, they better borrow to survive. I always like to use, well, that's why I say finance, so I use numbers a lot. So Paria Regional Corporation encompasses 495 kilometers square. That's a huge area. With approximately 80 to 82,000 burgesses. So if we do some math, we use that $79 million, and we divide that by the burgesses, and divide it by 365. How are we looking for each day? You get $2.50 to spend on each earlier for the day. Nice numbers, right? But let me give you the next thing. Port of Spain is just a fraction of that size. They allocate about $200 million, you know. San Fernando, a little pebble, over $100 million. See what they're telling earlier? That the people in Port of Spain and San Fernando and Arima and so forth deserve better living conditions than you and I. That's what they're telling you, know. Well, they don't deserve nothing. Port of Spain got 16% of the total allocation that our ministry got. They got 16% of that. San Fernando got 9% of it. Point 14 got 5%. Point 14 is a dot, eh? We surround point 14, you know. So by your corporate, right around point 14 as we. Arima 6%. Diego Martin 7%. We got 5%. So point 14, which is just about, I think, 20 kilometers square, got the same allocation as we did, with a population of about 20,000 persons. So we're going nice. That is what we living with. You know what that come like? You come back and say to play cricket without a bat, or football without the ball. It is virtually impossible. But yet still, councillors from the United National Congress, they try to turn water into wine. You look at the pandemic recently, did you see any PNM councillor getting any hampers? I worked with my colleague Javed Mohammed and Mrs. Ramadan Singh and some members of the Bondesi community. We did over 500 hampers. We begged credit from every parlor, nook and cranny in the entire district to make that happen. Did you see the PNM people doing that? I ain't hear nobody saying yeah. So that means they ain't do it then. You know? To compound our situation is the closure of petrol train. Because most of us would know long time petrol train when living like Crest Camp and you're a big boy. So you have your own garbage truck picking it up, your thing covered, nice and neat. That's falling us now. And with no additional funding. So we have all those pedestrian roads all over the constituency. You all know them. These nice big shot people, we have to pick up the garbage. No additional funding to do that. We have to clean the drain, no additional funding to do that. But we work in miracles. You know why? Because like Paria, we have a print tree. The young lady spoke about the 10 days just now. And girl, I'm sorry to say, but it's behind no more, Because we have no more money. The money we got was only afford us to do 10 days. But let me ask you a question. When last saw, let's see Europe do something productive in this country? Well, every single one of the offices is fully staffed there. And I never hear them complain about getting paid. Are we looking at that? Are we understanding what this government is doing in this country? I listened to that was the last TNT speaker, and Smalley. Smalley spoke to the woman, and it was a well emotional presentation. So I'm talking to all of you here now. How much more the plan to take? When are we going to stand up as a people? I ain't asking about to riot and fight, But there's only so much that you can take. I listened to Sarah and the young lady there. Brilliant, educated young people. And they cannot move forward in life. They're stagnant. Is that what we want for our family? For our children? Because this is what's happening now. Might not affect some of us, because we don't all retail already. But you see the children, they are the ones that are going to feel this. Mr. Bim talked about the educational system. Let me tell you something, and mark my words. This is not going to hit us now. But trust me, in the next 7 or 8 years, when those same children now start to come out of school, we're going to feel that. That's when the pain is going to start. How is it then that for us to get $200 million? And I'm glad I get that too. I'm happy. All I'm saying is, give me something too. Are you well glad I get 300 million? But give me some more paper again. Hey, boy, we're getting pressure here. Anyway, I ain't going to like Javel and get short. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make this comment to you. We have a government that is whooping. I play cricket and it's going on 1,000 years. Every season I be here. I tell a young boy in the back here, you're always whooping. I say, anybody from Stanford knows what you mean of whooping. They're swinging him with the hope of hitting it out the ground. And it ain't going nowhere. So tonight, on this forum, as we say TNT speak, I want to call on each and every one of you. You don't need a microphone to speak. You see this? This is your voice. Let us not make that same mistake again. We made it twice, Because everybody talk, Kamla, this and the policy, that. But yeah, what happened? We build school, hospital, everything built. The hospital they couldn't have, that wasn't no good. They opened for the COVID, and I ain't hear they say they spent a cent to open it. But it wasn't good. So, I want to thank you all for your kind attention. I hope that I would have put some knowledge onto you all. I look forward to your support. We have local election this year. Let us come out there and show them what we mean. Do like PDP in Tobago. Clean sweep. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Councillor Derek. And it's not whooping again. We're hitting them for 6. We're hitting them out of the parliament and into opposition. So our next speaker is a gentleman who is well known. I don't even have to mention his name. I may, and when I say may, you know what I'm talking about. He can be heard on radio on mornings. His voice is known throughout Trinidad and Tobago. He's always leading a protest. He's a man of the people, from the people, and leading the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together and welcome to the microphone our councillor from San Francisco North, Advocate, Councillor Dudnat Mero.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. our two members of parliament, our councillors, and all our guests here this evening, those on social media following us. Councillor Derek, you know the corporation have the ability to borrow. I want to move a motion to ask Faris for a loan to do something in Paria. And I know he have it. We know he have it. Because he collecting big. So my friends, being here tonight is something special in my heart. I was the representative for this area between 2010 and 2013. 3 years I spent in this electoral district, Paria West Fyzabad. I have been a councillor for 16 years. Those were the best 3 years in my life as a councillor. The lights on this ground here was placed between 2010 and 2013 by the UNC administration. We also placed lights on the College Street ground during that period that I was the councillor for that area. I had 2 grounds lights was placed on. Today you can't even get a damn street light on a pole under this PNM administration. You understand? We have seen, you have been hearing all evening what is happening. What have this government really done for us in the last 7 years? Except fix their friends and their family. They are talking about making Paria a borough. They have made the entire country, Trinidad and Tobago, a borough because everybody borrowing something every day. The whole of Trinidad and Tobago is a borough. I saw someone of your neighbor coming by you to borrow $100 or borrow some salt or sugar or something. So the whole of Trinidad is a borough. So you don't need to make Paria a borough. You already make the whole country a borough. We in borough status in this country. Until we move this PNM, we will not come out of borough status. We will remain borrowing all we life. Now they want to make Paria a borough. Those who traverse the road down San Francisco and Pluck Road, if you're going down there tomorrow and you see the road, don't be surprised. Because it ain't even half of the road. 3/4 of the road gone. And like Rohan Sinanan, forget San Francisco, Fyzabad, Pinal, Paria. Like they don't know the taxpayer dollar belongs to everybody in this country. And everybody's supposed to get some form of relief. They're not even patching the hole on the road. You want to make Paria a borough. Fix the road. Fix the landslip. Put water in the pipe. It has some areas in San Francisco for 3 and 4 weeks. No water. And you want to make Paria a borough. You already make the whole country a borough. You understand? Now, I don't want to call Rowley name because next thing he say, hey, if you're happy here, go somewhere else, you know. Because he tell a man last week, if you're happy here, go Guyana. You're always talking about Guyana. So we, Prime Minister, putting out people out of this country now. So if you talk against him, he ready to throw you out. You understand? I see him celebrating with the Shouter Baptist and he asking to save his soul. I am praying that God will really come and save that man's soul. Because if he is saved, Trinidad will be saved. He really needs God in his life. Because if people touching your heart every day and crying out to you for help, and you cannot reach out to them to help them, then you really need God to touch your soul. Because right now, the only soul I feel he have is the one under his shoes. You understand? But this Prime Minister really do not care about the citizens of this country. Look where we are today. What have we really benefited from this government besides high prices, bad roads, no water, a falling down healthcare system, an education system that is falling apart? The only thing that's not falling down in this country is them fellas' bank account. That is the only thing that's falling down. Them bank account fat, them happy. They don't care about you if you cry, if you have food, if you don't have food. But they're talking about making Paria a borough. I waiting for the day Faris come down Paria. I want him come and spend the whole day. When I carry him and I show him them landslips down San Francisco in my area. And you know, he say he's an action man. He's an action man. He like action. He like to get things done. Well, three-quarters of the things he do when he was Attorney General, he ain't do it the right way. So I ain't really expecting him to do anything good in Ministry or Rural Development, because he's a fella that's do things halfway. He always doing things halfway. In the Parliament, he bringing down everything to simple majority, although it's a 2/3 and a 3/5. He finding a way to make it smaller. So you think we should expect anything good from him? What you have? Well, I don't know about that one because I have court closed. So my friends, we have a local government election coming later this year. They're rushing this borough status. Now they're coming with local government reform. Bringing reform is not the issue. If you give us reform and you give us more powers and our allocation remain at $79 million for the next 3-4 years, we in the same monkey pants that we was in before reform. That not making no sense. That is why the UNC is saying, hey, there are some issues in the reform that we need to have dealt with and corrected. It is no point in giving the councillors more authority to do more things and they don't have the money to do it. And you're rushing to make Paria a borough. We already borrowing like the rest of the country. Fix the pothole, give the people water, fix the landslips, and give us money to take care of our vehicles and so on in the corporation. You know, out of $79 million, Councillor Bowen was saying, if you really find out how much money is for goods and services that really reach down to the ordinary man, you cry. Not even $10 million in goods and services reaches you. 3/4 of that is to eat up with wages and scavenging. So when you check it, nothing comes to you. The money they give us is chicken feed. It has nothing in it for the ordinary man. So when you hear you're cussing the councillor every day and you want your road fixed and you want your drain fixed, I wish I had about $50 million in the bank like Faris. I'd take out some and fix all the box drain. You understand? I would have given all you to fix it. You understand? So Derek, let me look somehow and see if we could ask Faris for a little loan or if we could get a loan for we and see if we could get something going in Paria. So my friends, later this year is local government election. And you know we have this habit. I ain't like Meru. I ain't like Javid. I ain't like Derek, so I ain't going out to vote. That is what have us sitting in opposition today. We vexed because the pothole in front of the house is fixed, so I ain't going to vote. You see what we end up with? We end up with a PNM government from 2015 because some of our people get angry because certain things cannot be done the way they want it done. We have to change that attitude. If we have to save this country for our children, our grandchildren, and the future, we need to stand up and unite and forget the issues that you have against anybody in our own party. We have a vehicle to take us into government. Jump in it, get on that vehicle. I ain't like Kamla. I ain't like Munilal. I ain't like this one. You like Rowley? All you like Rowley? All you like what Rowley doing? Well, get on board with the UNC and let us get into government. Forget who you like and who you don't like. Look at the chairman keep reiterating 2010 to 2015. That is the happiest time people had in this country. The amount of things that was being done, laptop, police station built, school, early childhood center, you name it, anywhere you go, there was something happening in this country. The only thing happening in this country under PNM is crime, pothole, no water, nothing positive is happening. So my friends, I beg you, I urge you, I ain't come here for all you to like me. I want all you to like what others do, how others beat up the PNM, how others stand up and protest with all you, how Derek does protest, how Javid does protest. 3/4 of the people in this country doesn't know what a councillor has to go through to ensure that goods and services reach you. If you really know the struggle that we go through, and let me tell you, a councillor job is not a full-time job. And don't feel we just get no $10,000 and $20,000. All you know what a councillor pay? $4,360 a month. You understand? This is a voluntary and this is a service we offer to you. We are not paid to do it. But because of our love for our people, we stand with you. We fight with you. We want to make your life better. But if you do not stand with us, we cannot stand alone. And put aside your anger and your hate and your venom for anybody in our party. And let us unite under Kamla Prasad Bisesa and form the next government. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Meru. So Councillor Meru is my neighbor on the San Francisco side. So now I want to bring my neighbor on the Paria side. Let's hear it for Councillor Jason Ali.
Everyone's coming out to bring about a change. I see young and old.
Good night, my brothers and sisters of the United National Congress. Those of you who are looking on, those of you who are seated here, those of you who are standing, and those who are on the stage. Good night. I am your local government representative for this electoral district of Paria West Fyzabad, a seat that we took away from the PNM in 2019. And we did that because we were united in Paria West Fyzabad. My brothers and sisters, tonight I come before you as the chairman of transport at the Paria Regional Corporation. And throughout the Paria Regional Corporation, we have burgesses calling day after day, week after week, and they are coming to the Paria Regional Corporation to get services. And we at the Paria Corporation, we cannot give them services. We cannot give them what they want. Why we cannot give them what they want? We cannot give them what they want because we are not getting the finances from the government. We are not getting $1 from the government. If I tell you right now, we have 7 barcodes at the Paria Regional Corporation and only 2 working. Why the other 5 not working? Very good. It is not working because we are not getting funding to fix it. 1 barcode needs $580 to fix, and we don't have that. We don't have that. $580 to fix 1 barcode. We're not getting any money. Our cesspool trucks, we have 3. 1 not working. The other one, it's going halfway. Right? We have 2 water trucks. We have 2 water trucks on paper because you know why? It pack up. It pack up. Because it's not working. Why? We had to get tire for 1. No money to buy tire. And that, my brothers and sisters, is to show you the failure of this government, the failure of the People's National Movement to help the people of this country. Many of us, thousands, did not vote for them, but we have to live with them. But if there's one thing I can say, the People's National Movement and the government have one word that is used, and that word is dung. You know why? They're falling down. They're breaking down. And in the Paria Regional Corporation, we vehicles shutting down. And that is what they are. And that is what they are doing. We cannot get nothing done. Under the United National Congress, led by our political leader, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, from 2010 to 2015, this country saw change. It saw development. But with the PNM, you know the saying, left foot, balize, right foot, we going backward. Other councillors before me spoke, and you hear them saying we have a 10 days program. And with our 10 days program, we had to go from brush cutter, from having workers cutting with brush cutter, we had to go back to brush and cutlass and cook stick. Brush and cutlass and cook stick. From having excavator digging drain, We have something called four-sprung excavator operators, man with fork. They call it bulldog. And that is what we have. Fellas with bulldog. So you see, I get in paper too. Like that is the only thing the government giving me, paper. And what? They print money on it, it's white. So my brothers and sisters, as I come to an end in my message here tonight, we have one short thing to tell you. They are trying all how with local government election coming up in the next couple months. But I ask you, as my fellow councillor Meru said, we have to bind together as in United National Congress. You know there's a saying, bind together with cords that cannot be broken. We have to come together, stand together to beat the PNM out of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
UNC for PNM must go.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ali. Brothers and sisters, let us, all the way from Point Up here, let us give a warm welcome to the Chief Whip, MP David Lee.
UNC for PNM must go. Tell them go.
Thank you, Ramona, for that quick and introduction. I want to say, listening to all the councillors here tonight, I think Paria and Pinal and the United National Congress is strong in Fyzabad. Give yourself a round of applause. Really, really strong and dynamic bunch of councillors that we have here. Let me first recognize my colleague. I call him the hero from Fyzo. We crowned him in Pointe-a-Pierre when he spoke on TT Speaks a couple of weeks ago. We call him the hero from Fyzo, Dr. Blakram, my colleague. Thank you so much for inviting me. I recognize you as my other member of parliament for Couva North, Mr. Ravi Ratiram. Thank you for coming all the way down here. I recognize our PRO, Dr. Kurt Meru. I recognize Alderman Angie Benjamin from the Couva Tabaki Talparo Corporation. And you recognize that all these individuals coming from far, because here is really far. I came all the way from Port of Spain. All right, so I know Ramona talked about Pointe-a-Pierre, but I came all the way from Port of Spain to be here to support my brother, Dr. Budo, and you, the beautiful people of Fyzabad. Because Fyzabad and Pointe-a-Pierre has something in common. We have Petrotrin in common. The disaster and the wanton failure by this government in shutting down Petrotrin. Because Pointe-a-Pierre and Fyzabad, we are related not only by colleagues, but we are related in the energy sector. And they destroyed not only Pointe-a-Pierre, but they destroyed Fyzabad by shutting down Pointe-a-Pierre. All the fence line communities of both Fyzabad and Pointe-a-Pierre was devastated by the destruction by Rowley and his callous cabinet colleagues in shutting down Pointe-a-Pierre. Now, I had a lot to say tonight, but listening to my friend, Meru, and his other team members, I started to scratch off everything from my speech. Because it's hard to come after Meru. I mean, I don't know what he'll say in the radio tomorrow morning. So he had to go and draft up another thing there. But I want to say, listening to all the councillors here tonight, there's one thing that we have in common. We do agree with what the Vice President Bharat Jagdeo said to Rowley and this country. And I want to quote it, because it is damning what he said from Guyana about us. And it is really a reality check that he also said about what is happening in our country. And I want to quote Vice President Jagdeo. And I quote, "Look at what is happening in Trinidad now. Trinidad is falling apart, and that's putting it mildly, falling apart. No jobs, sustained periods of negative growth, and can't see the light of day for the near future." And we listened to all the councillors here tonight, and every one of them talked about the sufferation and the lack of performance that they can give their burgesses and the people of Fyzabad because of the starvation by this government, central government, for the past 6 to 7 years on local government. And that will continue under Faris Alwari. Nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. Faris Alwari was a failure as Attorney General, and he will be a failure as Minister of Local Government. That is the most common thing that will happen with Faris Alwari. So no amount of good looks or well-dressed or pocket squares, as according to my member for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin, pocket squares and fluff, is going to change the performance of Faris Alwari. Faris Alwari doesn't know anything about local government. We had a local government minister in Kazim Hussein, and he grew up in local government, but he was a failure. He was a failure. He's a nice fella. He comes and he talks to all the councillors nice, and he's call them on the phone and say, "Don't bad talk me, you know. Don't bad talk me. You will get it tomorrow. Don't bad talk me." The Minister of Finance don't want to release the funds. Right? So hold on. It come in. He's saying that for the last 6 years, not so, Miru? And he does that to all our councillors. So I say to thank God Rowley moved Kazim. And Kazim, my friend, thank God they moved him to Minister of Agriculture. And he had the other day I saw in the papers in front page, when they moved him the next day, and they appointed 2 other ministers, junior ministers, to assist Kazim. And 3 of them over a poor little calf. They're taking advantage of that calf already the next day. Right? And they don't know what to do with the calf. Just like Kazim didn't know what to do with local government, he would not know what to do with the Ministry of Agriculture. Just like Faris Alwari was a failure as Attorney General, he will be a failure as Minister of Local Government. They're just passing the buck, as the Honorable Leader, Kamala Prasad Bisesa says, you're just shuffling the jokers in the pack. And nothing is going to change. When you look and you listen to all our councillors here tonight, and you go to all the ministries, and I listen to Mr. Bim about in the Ministry of Education. All that Minister of Education does is consultation. So Mr. Bim is correct. They have a nice fancy paper. They get the best English writers to write the document, but nothing happens with the document. Our education system is in a shambles. It has been in a shambles. So I really want to spend some time on Paria. And I went to a press conference invited today by esteemed Attorney Jal Ramdeen, who's the attorney for LCMS, right? And also he's handling the legal aspect for Kazim Ali Jr., along with the other families. And in that press conference this afternoon at 1 o'clock, Mr. Ramdeen released a set of documents. And in one of the most telling piece of documents was the autopsy done by, private autopsy, a second autopsy, done by Professor Hubert Daisley. And in his analysis, his post-mortem examination report, and it is here, and Jal Ramdeen released it to the press this afternoon, I have a copy. It talked about, and I have been asking since the disaster happened on the 25th of February at 2:45 p.m. Professor Daisley is saying in his report that the divers were alive up to 39 hours. 39 hours. So they were in the pipeline in different air pockets up to a worst case 39 hours. And that tells us as a country, as a people, the callousness of those directors and those high officials in Paria, and even some of our government officials in how they handled Paria and that situation with those 4 divers. And that is why I say Pointe-a-Pierre and Fyzabad, we have lots in common. Now I just want to read the autopsy report. So the time of the incident happened on the 25th of February, 2:45 p.m., Friday. The time of the body of Kazim Ali Jr., one of those divers, was on the 28th of February 2022. That was a Monday at 6 p.m. Professor Daisley is saying that the earliest time of death, meaning from 2:45 p.m., the earliest time of death that the divers could have died was 15 hours. And that would have been approximately around on the 26th Saturday at 6 p.m. And the best and the latest time of death was 39 hours after the Sunday at 6 a.m. And I have always asked in our press conference, the opposition, that window of opportunity at 2:45 p.m. when that disaster happened, and up to midnight on Friday, because there's evidence that as at midnight on Friday, there was sounds coming from the pipe where at Bird 5, certain employees were ponging on the outside, ponging on the pipe, and they were getting a response by getting another pong from inside the pipe. So that says that the divers were alive up at least until midnight of Friday. And what is so telling about Paria and the callousness which we have said, the opposition, there's something called a whiteboard. That when the incident happened, and I'll read some things from the whiteboard, it's there in the general public. At 2:15 p.m., on the whiteboard, which is handwritten, based on in Paria's, I call it their war room, based on what was happening in repairs. At 2:15 p.m., the first writing was, 5 divers enter the chamber. So at 2:15 p.m. on Friday, the 5 divers entered the chamber. At 3:48 p.m., that's about 2 minutes to 4, the other writing on the board was the HSE personnel, one Mr. S. Ramkisoon, I don't know if it's a man, a male or a female, reported chances of survival are slim. So at 2:15, the divers entered the chamber. At 3:48 p.m., 2 minutes to 4, something transpired. And that was when the divers were sucked into the tanks around 3:30. So at 2 minutes to 4, Paria is saying the chances of survival are slim. So they have given up hope. They have given up hope on the divers at 2 minutes to 4 p.m. on a Friday. At 17:45, at 5:45 Friday afternoon, Colin Piper, who is one of the key management individuals in Paria, informed management that one person was rescued. And that one person was Mr. Budram, who came out on his own, out of the pipe, came through the chamber, and then his nephew, his son, his colleague, was able to jump into the water and pull him out of the chamber. But at 2 minutes to 4, 3:48 p.m., Paria had given up hope on the Friday. At 5:45, 5:45, Mr. Budram came out alive. And he came out alive and was telling the officials, the other divers are alive in the pipe. Go and get them. And what happened after Mr. Budram came out? Paria did nothing after that. Nothing after that. And that is why it is so, we need answers. The families need answers. The country needs answers. And the country must ask, who is this Prime Minister protecting at Paria? Because at 5:45, Mr. Budram came out. He said the other divers were alive. Because the autopsy, based on what Professor Daisley is saying, is that in a best case, they were alive up to 39 hours after. And there were signals and signs coming from the pipe up and at least midnight on Friday that these divers were alive. And one has to ask the question, why Paria did nothing to save those divers. And that is the question the country must keep asking and must not allow it to go away. Because on Sunday at 8 p.m., so with Friday it happened, at Sunday at 8 p.m., between the Friday when that one individual came out alive on his own, Paria did nothing as far as trying to rescue those remaining 4 divers. And at Sunday 8 p.m., Paria management had a press conference, because I was along there in Pointe-a-Pierre, at 8 p.m., and had literally given up hope and said they're changing it from savior or survival to rescue. Or they were trying now just to get the bodies out of the pipe on Monday. And these are the questions that we must ask. And I am calling today, right now, tonight, just like the opposition has called, that Newman George, the chairman of Paria, along with Mustaq Mohammed, the CEO, and Colin Piper, must demit Paria immediately. And all evidence that has happened since 35 days ago must be preserved, because this incident happened 35 days ago. And up to the day, it's business as normal in Paria. All the evidence, none of it has been preserved. And we are asking what the TTPS is doing about it. Now, the Commission of Inquiry is one thing, and we have seen that has been dancing around by this government, because you first heard that it was going to have a three-member committee for the Commission of Inquiry, and now it's down to 2 members, and then the third would be some sort of consultation or consultancy by experts of divers. And up to the day, the Commission of Inquiry has not started. So, and up to the day, the Paria has not reached out to the families of these individuals to even ask them or even offer them sustenance. And we saw how they were treated on Friday when this incident happened to when the bodies were recovered on Monday. So we are calling on the government. We are calling on the government to meet with these families, to offer them some financial assistance while the Commission of Inquiry goes on, because the Commission of Inquiry will cost millions of dollars, while these 4 divers and their families of the 4 divers are suffering financially. And that, as a country, as a population, as a people, we will not tolerate that, ladies and gentlemen. We are calling on the removal of the chairman, Newman George, along with the CEO, Mustaq Mohammed, and Colin Piper, who played a great hand in this debacle or this fiasco of those 4 divers not being rescued or even attempt to be rescued, at least in the first 15 hours of that disaster. And you will hear more about that Paria incident, and you will not be surprised, I will not be surprised, as Meru said, that there's some deflection by this government that comes tomorrow or the day after. Because you see, the outfit that Rowley wore yesterday or the 2 days ago is a deflection. Don't get fooled by that, you know. Don't get fooled by that outfit. That outfit was a deflection tactic. Okay, so while we respect him, you know, with the spiritual Baptist and thing, that outfit was pure deflection, as we have seen. Even with the reshuffle of the cabinet is another deflection. So don't be surprised. You will see another deflection coming by this government over the next few days. So ladies and gentlemen, I know your MP is waiting in the wings to talk, and tonight is his night. And I just want to say before I close, tonight I was going to talk about Botiwari, you know, but I'll leave that for another time. Because he deserves a little lash because of that article in the papers today. He really deserves a lash, because when you read that article, and the article talks about 2 alternatives but no options, and when you read that article, it's all about Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And you would never think that Botiwari, and I respect Botiwari, you would never think that he was a senior cabinet member under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, between 2010 to 2015, and in the opposition as another senior MP from 2015 to 2020. All I would say tonight, I won't get in, Dr. Botiwari, United National Congress is disappointed in you. Because I remind the population, and I want Dr. Tiwari to come and denounce what I'm saying. In 2015, when Kamla Prasad Bissessa had appointed him the member for Caroni Central at Atto Bolan Stadium, he did not even want to wear our yellow shirt. He wanted to keep on the white shirt as for Caroni Central MP. And we gave him a choice. It's either the yellow or nothing at all. And that tells you the individual of Dr. Botiwari, and I'll say more about Dr. Botiwari another time. But tonight is really about the people of Fyzabad and how they're being treated. And I really want to thank Dr. Tiwari, Dr. Budo. Sorry, Dr. Budo. You could never be like Dr. Tiwari. Trust me. Trust me. And I want to say before I close, the opposition is fighting every day, tooth and nail, for our great party, the United National Congress. Sundays we have presser. Monday night we have virtual. Thursday we have TT Speaks. Every day of the week there's something happening in our great party. And yet you find you have naysayers saying that the party is not doing enough. We hear it all the time. We hear it. I want to tell you, United National Congress under the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bissessa is alive and well, and will return to victory whenever that is called. I promise you that. I want to thank Dr. Bodo for allowing me some time here tonight. I want to thank the beautiful people of Fyzabad, a tremendous crowd here tonight. I thank you. I thank you.
Let us put our hands together one more time. Mr. David Lee, best member of parliament to take on the government thus far. And so we wish you well, and we hope you will continue your struggle. So now we have reached where the air is rare. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my very distinct honor, pleasure, and privilege to introduce you to somebody who you know quite well, who you love very much. He is now in his second term as the Member of Parliament for the constituency of Fyzabad. He has served this country in different capacities. He was chairman of the regional medical body. He has excelled in the medical profession. He is a medical doctor for over 30 years. He has delivered over, is it 5 or 10,000? About 10,000 babies. Some of you perhaps were born in his hand. He continues to serve us and will continue to serve us as your serving, hard-working, dedicated, committed Member of Parliament for the constituency of Fyzabad. Let us put our hands together and welcome Dr. Lakram Bodo!
Everyone's coming. Thank you very much, Chairman. A very good evening to all here tonight, and those of you who are looking on YouTube and Facebook. I thank you all for being here. Fyzabad is very happy tonight to host TNT Speaks on behalf of the United National Congress, and I want to say a special hello to our political leader, who I know would be tuning in to this forum. Yet another forum as our deputy political leader and Member of Parliament and the Chief Whip, my colleague David Lee mentioned. I also want to recognize in our presence my colleague, the MP for Couva North, Ravi Ratiram, also the party organizer, and of course our very hard-working PRO, Dr. Kirk Meghu, who is out sending releases at all hours of the night. Thank you, Chairman of the Sipar Regional Corporation, co-host Councillor Ramona Victor, and the other councillors from the Sipar Regional Corporation. Tonight I'm very happy, I'm very pleased, because I believe that TT Speaks, we've been able tonight
in Fyzabad, and I'm sure this will happen as we go out through the other constituencies, to be able to get the view from the ground. And I want to commend and thank the 4 speakers who came here tonight for their views. So let us show them a round of applause. I think when you hear it from the ground, when you hear the ordinary person speaking about their challenges, I think that is very, very important. And you know, so we had Sarah Kalipasad, who spoke about, connectivity-driven commerce. And that is important. We're hearing about this government talking about IT and whatnot and so on. And I mentioned that particularly in respect to something that I'll speak about a little bit later, and that is this report, this COVID-19 report. And you speak about data, Sarah, and the fact of the matter is that one thing that fell down in this report is the fact that there was little data. And I'll come back to this in a short while. But so I want to thank Sarah Kalipasad. I want to thank Russell Ramnarayan, who explained the challenges that small businessmen, small business people face in this community. And of course, Suzette Mohammed, who is so very well qualified. When she entered university in 2017, she would have had the dream of working in Petrotrin, and that dream would have collapsed in 2018 in terms of her not being able to get a job. And of course, a very veteran Dave Bem, who spoke about the challenges in the education sector. So my brothers and sisters, and again, we had the tremendous exposition of the challenges that the councillors of the SIPA Regional Corporation face, the many tremendous challenges on a daily basis, especially in terms of the funding. And I agree with my colleague, the MP for Pointe-à-Pierre, that in fact, we can't really expect too much changes. And Mario said it. It's just another name, the same thing by another name. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll, going forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I just want to speak a little bit about the collapsed health sector. We used to speak about the collapsing health sector, but now it's perhaps, the collapsed health sector. And I want to speak about another pandemic. And I'm happy and I'm very grateful that the COVID-19 pandemic seems to be easing. Restrictions are being lifted and the society is once more opening up. And I want to thank all of you who have taken the opportunity to come out tonight. It's been a long time since we've been able to meet like this. But of course, I know that you have taken your precautions of social distancing and wearing your mask, and I commend you for that. And it's in this line of things as you'll go forward in terms of taking your precautions. So, COVID-19 pandemic is receding in the distance, but there's another epidemic, I don't want to call it a pandemic, that is there and has always been there with us. And this government, under the minister, has failed to treat with this. And this is an epidemic that has been there since they took office in 2015. And I talk of the epidemic of non-communicable diseases, what we call chronic disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, and so on. And we saw that what happened, and this report here is an indictment. This COVID-19 report that was done by the committee is an indictment on the performance of the government during the COVID-19 pandemic. Granted, it was new, it was something that had never hit the world before, but it showed, and I want to commend those who wrote this report, because 4 out of the 5 people on this committee I know in some way, and they're all reputable people, professionals and so on, and they did an excellent job in terms of the short time that they had. Imagine they were given 1 week to do this report, eventually they were given 4 weeks. But yet in that short time, and despite all of the challenges they faced, they were able to produce a very good report. And this report is going to continue to be an indictment on the poor performance of the government, of the Prime Minister, who from Saturday to Saturday would come and speak, from the pulpit of the press conference, and the Minister of Health, boasting that they were doing their best for citizens. But in truth and in fact, it turned out that that was not the case. But there'll be a whole lot more to say about this COVID-19 report. So again, I don't want to spend too much time. This has been said already, some of the shortcomings and so on. But essentially, this COVID-19 report is a story of overworked staff and understaffed wards. You had a situation where you had 1 registered nurse on the ward nursing 20 to 30 patients, 1 nurse to 6 patients in the ICU, And I just want to stop and pause for a moment again, to express condolences to all of those families who have suffered and would have lost loved ones. Many in this community, in the constituency of Fyzabad, would have lost their loved ones and so on. But it goes to show that, the government given us the impression that they were doing their best, and yet it turned out that they were not so. And there's a lot of detail in this report that speaks to that. And, we'll be talking a bit more about that. So one of the interesting things about this report is that in this report, one of the recommendations is that we should treat with something called non-communicable diseases. So this is almost the government saying, listen, we now discover it have a problem about diabetes and high blood pressure and asthma. And I come back to the point that part of the reason why so many of our citizens suffered in the COVID-19 is because of these comorbidities. If you notice, every time you had deaths, they were talking about age was one factor, but of course the comorbidities. And this is because the steps were not taken to ensure that our citizens were treated properly to avoid and to deal with these issues. So since 2015, they've been in power. Nothing has been done to treat with chronic disease. The extended hours at the health center, which was started under the People's Partnership government, those hours were meant to encourage people to come to the health centers and so on to get their blood pressure checked, their sugar checked and so on. It was meant to be convenient for the citizens, and those were cut off as soon as the PNM took government. And of course, all of this took place while we had 500 unemployed doctors. From 2016, all of a sudden, it's a very amazing thing, it's an interesting thing. When I left SWRH as the chairman in 2015, there was no question that when a young doctor qualified, after the state had spent so much money on training these young doctors, there really was no question that they would find a job, that they would be employed. And therefore, there was a system in place to engage these young doctors, either in the hospitals or out in the health centers, in the community centers. So all of a sudden, we find that you have 500 doctors unemployed, but yet the whole healthcare sector was falling down in the community. So we have to read between the lines there. And now, of course, we know the Minister of Health is very famous for shedding his tears. All of a sudden has now realized that he has to appoint a director of non-communicable disease. It's not going to make any difference, right, appointing a director at this stage, because this PNM government simply is not in a position, unable to do this job. Because, there are things that had to be done. And I'll just talk about one aspect of what is going to happen in this country as we go forward. Now, they spoke about something called a parallel healthcare system, and they boast about that all the time. Boasting about parallel healthcare system, meaning that they had identified certain facilities to treat COVID-19. One of them, of course, the Couva Hospital, the backbone of the COVID-19 response, the one that they said and preached for 5 years that couldn't be open, but yet within a matter of 2 weeks, they were able to open that hospital, thankfully built by the People's Partnership government and able to help our citizens in their time of greatest need. So, but there are other things that needed to happen. There's one of the commonest issues we have in this country, and many of you here will have had this experience where your relative experiences chest pain, they get a heart attack, and they have to go to the hospital. Now, the standard of care right now for that kind of thing is that you should be able to get what's called an angiogram. And many of you come to the MP office and because you are asked to get an angiogram done and so on. Do you know when we left office in 2015, we had things in place to start and to build something called a cardiac catheterization laboratory in the SWRHA. It means if that was done, everything was in place, and yet 6 years, 7 years, going into 7 years later, they are yet to come up with a reason why that structure has not been built. And now they are talking about, every time I ask the Minister of Health in the Parliament, they are talking about lack of funding and whatnot and so on. But what is more important than treating with the health of a population? So what it means right now is that these facilities, if this facility was in place, when you go to the San Fernando Hospital with chest pain, you wouldn't have to be referred to a private institution to get your angiogram done, or you wouldn't have to be sent to Port of Spain, or you wouldn't have to be put on a waiting list to get your procedures done. And whilst you're on the waiting list, many citizens have died. So that is one of the other issues. And of course, there are many, many other projects that they abandoned when they took office. So this Minister of Health is all about PR. It's all about talking, but not doing. One issue I want to raise as well, and this is going to come to the forefront, and the political leader, of course, will speak a little bit more about this. But this is the question of, now we said the COVID-19 is coming to an end, but there's a question of what you call the decommissioning of the COVID-19 hospitals. So we know Point 14 Hospital, for example, which was used for COVID-19, has now been decommissioned. That's a new hospital, and it's going back to be used as an ordinary hospital. The same thing is going to happen to the Arima Hospital. But, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I want to raise your awareness, and I want you to keep this on the horizon. What will happen to the Kuva Hospital when it is no longer needed to treat COVID-19 patients? And I throw this out tonight, and I call upon the government to give a clear answer as to what the Kuva Hospital will be used for when it is no longer required for COVID-19. And I trust and hope that it will continue to be used as a hospital for the benefit of all of our citizens, and that no excuse will be made to close it down. The other hospital that we have to keep in mind is the Augustus Long Hospital, which is currently being used to treat COVID-19 patients. And I saw recently the union leaders and so on, and we spoke about Petrotrin, and of course in Fyzabad and in Pointe-à-Pierre, MP Lee, the same issue with the retirees and so on. But in particular, the Petrotrin retirees got a very raw deal in terms of their medical plan. They had an excellent medical plan. They were able to use these facilities, especially at the Augustus Long Hospital, to access top quality medical care. When Petrotrin was closed down, they were given some plan for 2 years, and now it's out in the wilderness. And the irony is that they have to join the rest of the public in the public hospitals, which are also struggling. So we have to keep an eye on what will happen to the Augustus Long Hospital. Dr. Lee is also the shadow for energy, and I know that the Augustus Long Hospital comes under heritage at the moment. And, colleague, we need to keep a very, very close eye on what is going to happen. Is it that it's going to be given to a family or friend? And we'll speak more about that as the time draws near. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I will close shortly. I just want to raise one more issue, and we know that schools are going to open on the 19th of April. And of course, one of the issues that is of concern, and I have no problem with that, we are very happy our children have been home for too long, and we look forward to them going to school. But again, it shows how this government has fallen down. Now, while some parents may not be happy with their children between 5 and 11 getting a vaccination, and that is their right, and I respect that, we all respect that. But there are also parents whose children might be at risk. Some of these children may have asthma, they may have other chronic diseases or other ailments that if they get infected with COVID-19, they can be at risk. And since January of this year, the World Health Organization, the WHO, who the government relies on, has approved the vaccination for 5 to 11-year-olds. And in the parliament, the government mentioned that there was a contract. They were engaged in negotiations with Pfizer to get these vaccinations. Yet, as recently as the last sitting in the parliament, we realized that that deal seems to have fallen through. We have this 2-week window now before school opens where these children could have at least gotten their first shot, their first vaccination, those who wanted. And we are told that those vaccines are not available in the country. We are told that the government is again waiting on a donation from Spain, a donation of 40,000 doses, and yet the Minister of Health, when questioned, could not give an answer. So, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a lot of challenges going forward in the health sector. We'll be speaking a lot more about that to you. But I want to give you the assurance that under the leadership of Kamla Prasad Bisesa, your party, the United National Congress, is very strong. We are ready, we are waiting, and we can give you the assurance that we'll form a strong government when we are given that opportunity. I close on the point of local government elections, and of course we know the PNM always has its eyes on the Sipara Regional Corporation, Meru, because they think that the Sipara Regional Corporation is in the area of the political leader, and therefore they always try to fight that corporation. But I want to say to them that whether the Sipar Regional Corporation remains a borough or whether it remains a corporation, come local government election, is the same licks for them. We agree? Same licks for them. So on that point, ladies and gentlemen, I want to close. I want to thank you very much for staying. I know it's been a long time since you've been out, and I thank you for coming out and remaining safe. And I wish that you all reach home safely. Have a good night. Thank you.
So in closing, we say a heartfelt thank you to our MP and for his dedication, commitment, and for our visiting MP who will be a regular visitor from now on. I want to thank all the councillors and all the guest speakers tonight, and of course thank all of you for being here. So be safe, go home, be safe until we meet again. We continue in our battle to make Trinidad and Tobago a better place under the United National Congress. I thank you.